This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, Trump holds Pakistan accountable. Backed by popular demand, Philip Haney, former Homeland Security officer and the author of See Something, Say Nothing. Phil, what a pleasure and an honor it is to have you back on the Glazov Gang.
Thank you very much, friend.
Well, look, Pakistan, as we know, has been enabling terror for years. They've been running a swindle on the United States in so many ways, including with their madrasas. And I mean, the story goes on, and you're an expert on that. That's why we have you here. But look, there's some hope now, because unlike having a president who wants to destroy the United States, we now have a president that wants to protect the United States and protect freedom throughout the world. So on July 22nd, 2019, as you have also mentioned in your profound work, Phil, Trump had met at the White House with Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, with the Army Chief Bajwa, and also with the Director General of the Inter-Services Intelligence, ISI, Fayez Hamid. That was very significant. Let you take it away.
Well, they met. It's the first time in history that the ISI and military background officials met in the White House with a leader of Pakistan. And President Trump was very polite and diplomatic, but he told them he needs them to start stepping up and paying attention to the threat of these, I will use the word, he didn't use it, but they are Deobandi groups, which we've talked about before, and this massive alliance of different jihadi groups coming out of the Indian subcontinent that are allied with the Taliban. This is all about Afghanistan primarily, what's going on there, and also the groups that are operating in Pakistan, and that has to do with primarily Pakistan's conflict with India, with one of the other flashpoints is Kashmir. So President Trump seems to be very well informed on this. I have to give him credit for it. I'm encouraged by it.
And Phil, and he withdrew $1.3 billion a year from Pakistan because he knows what's going on. He knows what they're up to.
He said he would do it, and he did it.
Fantastic.
It is, and he will do it again if they don't show improvement.
Well, and Phil, here's the tragic situation here, which your work has shown in a really masterful, profound way. I mean, this is a tragic situation, because it's not about getting the Pakistanis to stand up and do something. When you look at the evidence, it's actually Pakistan that put the Taliban in power and actually was behind in many respects, Al-Qaeda, 9/11, etc. These are not leaders and a regime and a government that's got their eyes closed. They're actually enabling jihad.
Oh, it's very deliberate and intentional, yes. They not only created the Taliban, more or less, and to be fully honest, we were involved in that in some means during the time of Osama bin Laden and the fight with Russia. Because the Taliban, it was one of the major forces, allied fighters that opposed the Russians. But then, as time went on, we were trying to help. They began to fire on United States troops. That same force morphed over to a jihadi force that intention was to take over Afghanistan, which is exactly what they're trying to do now. But the double-edged sword is they don't intend to just stop with Afghanistan. They intend to continue right across the Indian subcontinent, and we've talked about that before with the Code of Conduct, which is a very important document, just as important as the explanatory memorandum, and or the 1998 fatwa that Osama bin Laden issued called Global Jihad against Jews and Christians. Yahudin wa Sabiliyun. Sabil means cross. And they laid it out on the table. Now we have three major documents: the 1998 fatwa, the explanatory memorandum, and this new thing called the Code of Conduct. And they're virtually identical documents, very plain and very precise about what they intend to do. And that's that missing piece. But yet, going back to our starting point, President Trump, I'm encouraged. And also what he said lately about Afghanistan. It's like these negotiations that we talked about before in Qatar are not going forward like we hoped. And President Trump is saying, hold on here. Let's not get going too fast. Let's slow it down a little bit. That to me is an encouragement. That tells me that people are telling him, hey, there's more to this picture than what meets the eye. Let's just take it one step at a time.
Right. And so, Phil, so tell us some more about the ISI terrorist nexus. Who's really leading the Pakistani security forces? Who's really in power? And what are their real intentions?
One of the major controversies is the Kashmir. It's a disputed area between India and Pakistan. This started all the way back at the same time as the Palestinian-Israeli conflict started, back in 1948. And it's an ongoing conflict. The ISI endorses and encourages a network of somewhere between 40 and 50,000. It's an incomprehensible number, what I call salt and peppered through the entire Indian subcontinent of madrasas. And these are schools where young men come and study the Quran. And they study the doctrine and ideology of jihad. Some of them become imams. Some of them become specialists in Sharia law. But the vast majority of them get the basic training to be equipped to go out onto the battlefield. And that's where these vast numbers of fighters come from. And the ISI is very aware of this. And we should also add, it's not just Pakistan. I'm sure you can guess who finances a large majority of these madrasas. Saudi Arabia. But who goes to these madrasas? What ideology? The Deobandi ideology. That's Tablighi Jamaat. That's San Bernardino. That's Tawhid Jamaat. That's Sri Lanka. And above all, Taliban itself is a Deobandi Muslim organization. And so they're emerging, and they formed a new coalition, which we also know from evidence was formed by ISI, the Pakistani intelligence agency, called Al-Qaeda of the Indian subcontinent. Most people haven't heard of it yet, but believe me, it's going to emerge into a very prominent role in the months and years ahead, because it's a coalition. It's a larger coalition of jihadi groups than we've ever seen in the world before. It covers 5 major countries, and this is all part of this nexus, this network that ISI is promoting, endorsing. They provide training places in Pakistan. They provide environment for the schools. They help transport fighters. They let them travel back and forth on visas with no stamps. Open door.
Well, Phil, by the sounds of it, there's just thousands, tens of thousands of these fighters, of these imams and sheiks and clerics all involved in all of this, these madrasas. How could it be that so many thousands of Muslims are misunderstanding the religion of peace and the real message of the Quran?
Well, you know as well as I do, I could try to make a joke about that. Unfortunately, it's not funny. They're not misunderstanding it at all. There is really actually no such thing as radicalization as we think of it. These young men don't just walk along one day and one day they're going to grammar school or high school and all of a sudden something like a meteor hits them on the head and the poor unfortunate souls are suddenly radicalized. No, it's very plain that it comes right. The spring of it that you drink from is the Quran. It's been this way for 1400 years, and it's reinforced with the Hadith. It's reinforced through Sharia law. These young men wouldn't be going to madrasas if it was contrary to Sharia law. They wouldn't attend a school that's going to contradict the fundamentals of Islam. No, it's quite the opposite.
Right. And it's incredible, Phil, that the truth is just staring the world right in the face in terms of all this evidence. and yet, the powers that be in our establishment media and our culture and academia, they still try to pursue this lie about, how Islam is a religion of peace, when all of the evidence that you're showing completely contradicts that, just empirically.
And it's not just in the arena that we consider to be terrorism or violence. It's also a saturation from the bottom up, like water soaking into a sponge.
Right.
And there are other, maybe we could talk about this another time, and it's not just far away in Afghanistan and India and Pakistan. It's happening as we speak, right in front of us here in America too. Now, we've talked about the groups and the individuals that are doing this, but even just recently, I found out that the State Department's program for religious liberty, they had their second annual meeting just last month, and I found out that major leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood have now saturated themselves into this effort by the State Department to protect the religious liberties of people all over the world. And so every time you turn around, whether it's overseas or if it's here in America, they either are saturating up like water into a sponge, or they're putting pressure on that same sponge from above and pushing pressure on it to saturate it faster, and that's what we call terrorism, from above or underneath. Right. And it's happening here, it's happening over there. And you're right, once you see it, it's like a chameleon on the wall. Once you realize that that's a chameleon over there on the wall, he can't fool you anymore. You know he's a chameleon no matter what color he turns.
Right. Phil Haney, thank you. Our time's up. We're going to bring you back to continue this discussion. Where can people find you and support your truth-telling and all your work for the security of our civilization?
I have a new website I'm linked into now. It's called Lantern of Liberty. You can go on there, just Lantern of Liberty, and look it up. You'll find it, and we've posted articles I've been writing lately and interviews like with you. And as you know, I've been writing a lot for journals in India, of all places. You might say, India? Well, India is at the center of it. And they really appreciate other specialists from other parts of the world that are reconfirming the concerns that they have. They're eye to eye with these groups. They see it every day. So, yeah, I've been writing a lot, and those will be there, and people can read them and talk about Afghanistan and Pakistan like we are now, and the ISI and the Deobandis and so on. It's like this, like you said, it's this whole branch of this big giant tree that has been like invisible for almost 20 years now.
Crazy stuff, but thank the Lord that we have a truth teller like you, Phil Haney, that's really trying to get the reality and the truth out there. Thank you for everything that you're doing, Phil Haney.
One team, one fight. That's what we say.
Thank you so much. Follow Phil Haney, my friends, a real truth teller in our modern times. He'll be back on the Glazov Gang soon, and you'll see us soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.